pieces of the Course that seem to point to a very direct experience, but a lot of the concepts and the processes within the Course seem to, just seem to no longer have a usefulness in my experience. Yet, because I've had such an investment in the Course, I've made a movie, I have a website, I've taught online, all of a sudden having this recognition and what happens to all of that is coming to my mind right now. Like that's like the play that's happening in the mind is, well, what happens with all that? Do I stop talking about the Course? And if I
Well, I think it's really awesome actually that you can see where you are and that your experience actually has gone maybe beyond where the Course is in your life right now. And I just had a memory of one lesson in the Course. Is it 186 or something like that? That says that even the Course you're gonna throw it away at some point. And so I think that's just where you're at. And I think that, to me, in this whole process of transformation to who we really are, there are different steps. And I feel that there is a teaching that is bringing us, or some spiritual concept that is leading us to awakening. But after awakening, there is still an integration of that experience into daily life. And so often what happens is that we take the habit of keeping the concepts that have been useful, and we can even be a bit scared actually of letting these concepts away because they were so helpful to bring us to this experience that we think that if we let go of them, then we're gonna lose the whole thing. It's like, God damn it! I've worked so hard for this for so many years. No way I'm gonna throw this away. But actually, it's never going backwards. It's always moving forward still, because there is. Awakening to me is not full liberation, and there is a transformation process that keeps happening after. And often we are not aware of it because awakening feels so free, and we're, in that experience, we can be so detached from everything that arises just is not touching anything. We know who we are, so it can rise, and there is no suffering happening with it. There's just like, okay, everything can happen, I'm never touched by it. But at some point, that position actually feels dry, or can feel like it's great, but there seems that there is something more, or it feels like there's something missing, or maybe there is still something for me to discover. There's like a thought that comes, and in that actually it's just showing that witnessing is actually inviting us to come back to our profound humanness. And in my experience, that's really how it happened, that at some point it was like everything I was sharing was coming from that complete emptiness, and was like, there's no one, there's no choice, everything is rising and spontaneously in the moment, there's nothing else. And it was like just that. And at some point something happened, and it felt like my heart broke completely open, cracked open, it felt. And I was like, oh my God, and here is Armelle. And I was like, what's happening? Because it just felt, well, this is me. This is me again. And actually what it felt like is that it felt like something was integrating in a deeper way, in a very human perspective, knowing the truth of who I am. So it's living as if I am Armelle, knowing who I am, but all the choices, all the decisions in daily life are lived like that. And in this integration process, what's happening also is that we can come facing stuff that has not been felt before, because when in this process of awakening, what happens is that when we are not touched, and that everything is just, just running on yourself, but nothing is touching you, it's actually an awesome thing to discover that, anything can happen. You don't get angry anymore, you just don't care about anything, you're not touched. Sometimes, well, you might still cry sometimes, but it never lasts, and all that is just awesome. But the thing is that if suffering is still arising, and suffering to me is guilt, blame, or attachment to outcome, or belief that there is a need for love that's still there, or if these things are still happening, even though you're not touched, they keep arising. And because of the witnessing, they are cut, so they are not fully felt. And at some point, life will bring us back to feel them, for them to completely go. Because the end of the process is the end of suffering. Complete end of suffering. So suffering doesn't arise at all anymore. And I feel like that often what is preventing that is spiritual concept, because they've been so helpful that we think they became truth, and they are not truth. They are just concepts that have led us to an experience and that can go, because that experience is just going to keep percolating in our experience and keep deepening in disintegration, actually, as we live daily life in every moment. That's the only thing I speak about. That I feel like this is really, to me, so important, because there are in my sense, very little that I heard about that specifically, that was being spoken that way. And in my experience, it came like that without me understanding necessarily what was going on, but just starting to see that that was what was going on. I felt more and more human. I felt like more and more Armelle, and I was wondering, but in the same time, I was really at peace. And in the same time, there was also still joy that was there and stuff like that. And then I started to see that more and more there were some experiences coming back in my awareness, where I felt that life was telling me, now you have to feel this, you have to stop here and you have to feel this. And so this whole process started to happen. And it's true that when it happens, it can be intense, but in the same time, with the awareness of who you are, it never lasts, because as soon as the awareness lands on these things, feelings or beliefs, well, it doesn't, it has no chance that it's going to keep going. And what is seen also is that it's not you doing the process, really not you. Life is doing it through you every moment. Where in the first part, in the experience of what leads you to awakening, it feels more like you have to have determination or willingness, like the Course would say, and that, you have to give this willingness. So it feels more like you are the one doing. And the second part to me is really seeing and integrating that there is no doer. And so seeing more and more in your experience how you're not doing anything, but life is doing it all the time. And so wherever there is a leftover doership, that's what's going to come up. And that's where you can see if spiritual concepts have been embedded there. And if yes, then it's the opportunity to let them go so that the experience can deepen in yourself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's... So, I mean, I'm with you on your sharing, and the thoughts that were coming to mind when we talk about these spiritual concepts, because A Course in Miracles has been such a big part of my experience, or in the story of Craig, I have concepts like Jesus and the Holy Spirit and the Holy Instant, all those things that, in some ways have already been seen as what they are, the concepts, but yet there's still like not an uncertainty, but like I can see this trepidation in whatever's next. It's like, and to let them go, it's like, come on, I mean, look, it's Jesus, it's like, what are you saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's led me to this point, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, and I can see how that whole plays out in mind. The other thought that comes out of mind is also, there's a recognition of the identification with this. You were talking about the doer, the one who's willing, the one who's practicing, the one who's putting the principles into play. And so there's also a recognition that, oh, wow, there's actually an investment in that, and there's I guess we can call it fear. There's definitely some kind of resistance to letting that go, because with that also seems to be that when that goes, also the relationships that that character has formed based on those spiritual concepts go with it too. So it's funny to watch that. I can see that like snowballing.
Yeah, yeah. But it's beautiful what you say. It makes me think that we just gave, with Roger, we gave a 2 weeks retreat in France, in the south of France. And the second week was about that specifically. Integration in daily life, and see what spiritual concepts were maybe blocking that full recognition of that there is no one doing, that there is no doer at the center of the experience. And actually, someone was asking the best question. The question was, but if I'm not the doer, who am I? And actually, neither of us answered, because we can't answer for her. And she had to stay with that, and she got her answer. And really, she could see that she was, like you were saying, actually scared to completely see that she's not the doer. Because then it would just mean, yeah, but what about everything I've done until now? And really the deepest question, but who am I then if I'm not the one doing? Because we've been so used in our society and experience also to think that we are the doer, and we've been so receiving so much appreciation from what we've done, or guilt or blame for what we've done wrong. And so that is at some point has to be seen, just for what it truly is, that there never was anybody doing anything there. It was always life's doing. So I feel for me, even, using the Course principles, that is the ultimate forgiveness. The only forgiveness there is really seeing that no one has ever done anything. And, well, it's great. I have some Course quote coming to mind. One of them is, I think it's about forgiveness, that you have to see that what you think your brother have done, he did not do. And that's what it is. Why he did not do? Because he wasn't the one doing. And that's the release of guilt. That's the release of the blame. That's the release of doership, actually. And I think that is a very, very important part. And to me, that is really what's happening in this process of integration. Because awakening is seeing that there is no one doing anything, that there is no one living this life. But then you see that there is no one. But then how do you live daily life practically? Well, practically, there seems to be Armelle making decision, although I know life is making all decision, life is living this instrument, but still it seems like every moment I make decision, and all the decision I make, I don't have any control over them, but I'm going to live the consequences of all these decisions. So practically, yes, Armelle is existing, and Armelle is living daily life. And I think that is an important part, because I think that often with these spiritual concepts, we might be lost in that, and not everything might be completely clear. So we would keep practicing things as we learn them because it worked. But at some point, we just realize that it doesn't work. And that's exactly what a really good concept is. It's something that at some point doesn't work because it has delivered what it needed to deliver, and then it has to be let go of. And so all that, you talk about practicing, I came to realize many times in this process that some concept made no sense to me at all. And I don't know why, but intuitively they were just dropped. And then something else was coming and bringing another realization. And yeah, it just happens naturally. To me, that's really how it went. And then for sure, I can really say that also plenty of concepts from the Course, I've looked into them because it's been part of my path also, as you know it, and they had to go. I really saw how they were restrictive for a deeper experience.
Yeah, what comes to mind is, or what I feel is, in many ways, it's simpler than the Course, some of the Course concepts seem to make it. Although, this is not to say that those concepts weren't needed at some time or weren't helpful. But looking back, I look at some of the things, like yesterday I was reading something and I can't remember exactly what I was reading, but I was like, wow, this sounds really more difficult than what it actually is what the direct experience is. It just seems so much more complicated than what's speaking to me in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like really trusting that, you know, it's like you have the feeling, you have the intuition of that, and then it's trusting that intuition to make the step that, well, okay, maybe I put it on the side for a while, just to see how is it to live just daily life. And I think it's like that, not just with the course, because I have a friend who was at the retreat, and he was very much into non-duality for a while, for 5 years or something. And everything we spoke, it's like I could feel that these concepts that he heard at some point were just blocking him. And then they were misused, actually, where they were helpful at some point, they were misused. And so it's not that the concepts are not good anymore. It's just that at some point they're not helpful for where you are at. And so keeping using them could be just misusing them, actually. And also, even in the first phase, people can misuse spiritual concepts that are very good and very useful to bring about an experience, but they are used in another way, so then they don't bring about the experience. And we think, well, something's not working here. But, you know, it's like we have to see how we use these things, and, well, how is it in our experience, really? And I really think that life is inevitably bringing us back to just simple daily life. And when you say it's so simple, it is so simple because it is just daily life, you know, with you living where you are, with your partner, with doing your stuff that you like doing, or not doing anything, or just, you know, it's just daily life. And I think that when we had a very intense spiritual search, we might just wonder, is it all that is? Is it just even right? Just that? And even more, and I can speak about that, if we have a concept of service, because if the concept of service is there, then it's like we don't really know. We think that we have to constantly be giving, and I think that, you know, it has to be looked at, because service can also be misused and could become more like almost sacrifice. And could be seen like as I always have to be active and to give and to share, but there is a natural movement that's there that nobody needs to do. And I think it's important actually to really listen and to allow yourself to just do what you feel like doing in each and every moment without thinking you have to give something, because life knows. To me, that's really important. Life knows where to give, how to give, and when, and how much. And I think it's kind of scary in a sense, because we have to really let go of the last bit of control that might be still there, and to see that, okay, so if I don't make anything happen, will life still happen? And yes, it totally does.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, you know, it's funny. It's like even being out here on the ranch, I'm constantly reminded that life happens without your input. You know, I don't know if I shared this story with you, but you know, we have a lot of cows, and you know,
yeah.
the very first time they started to give birth to calves, we had one cow that was pregnant, and so Mike, you know, knowing that this cow was pregnant, I mean, was like watching her all the time. He made sure she was right next to the house, and you know, just waking up at, you know, every 2 hours at night, you know, 2 in the morning he'd wake up, make sure she's okay. 3, 4 o'clock comes, going outside, make sure she can. Finally, you know, she's getting ready. I mean, this is a build up, like weeks and weeks and months, and coming to finally. So finally, you know, she's ready to give birth. And so he's there, you know, the birth goes fine. He helps out. He's like, you know, getting all bloody and doing his thing. So that was that. So then, like a few weeks later, he walks out into the pastures and finds that there's another calf. Apparently, there was a cow that he did not know was pregnant. And she managed to have her baby by surprise without any help or worry involved. And not only that, for 4 consecutive days, each day after, he didn't realize it, but the other cows were pregnant, and they kept giving birth. So every day he would wake up and find a new baby on the pasture. And so, and we kind of chuckled and laughed because it was like all this energy and work for the first one, and it just showed us that we would never need it. You know, it's like life is just taking care of itself. We don't need to get involved.
That's it.
So it was such a beautiful demonstration, and we've since had a lot of calves, and they know what to do. We don't have to get involved. You know, it's perfectly.
That's it. It's the same thing for our life. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
You shared a little bit about we talked about concepts and letting them go, and one of the concepts that I don't know it comes to mind right now to talk about is this idea of being the miracle worker. And you know, being the the healer. You know, especially when we talk about whether it's physical ailments. Mental suffering, whatever it is. I mean, the Course says that all health is mental, right? But people oftentimes lean on the miracle for physical ailments as well, and circumstances. And so I've in my experience, or what seems to be coming to mind, is that even that, the idea that there's a person actually there doing the miracle, has to be let go of, and that's kind of seems like a tough one to let go of, this idea that I'm the miracle worker, and we just finished talking about how life is taking care of itself. You know, I just shared a story about, but then it's like, what happens to the miracle worker?
Tell me what happens to him.
the thought comes to mind that he was never born.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Well, it's like we have to see that. I'm not saying that concepts are bad, because I really do believe that plenty of concepts are so useful, and maybe even that you're gonna take new concepts on to replace these ones, and that they will just dissolve by themselves too, to fall away completely in the complete integration. So I'm not saying it's bad, but what the Course is doing, really, like any non-dual teaching, it's like Ramana was saying that. He had that saying, like, you take, well, I know it in French. How is it in English? A nail? No, well, not a nail. No, needle. You take a needle to remove the needle that is embedded in your thumb, but don't forget to throw the 2 needles away. And so that's what it is. It's like you have a false belief about yourself or about the world, and then the Course or a teaching is coming with a new concept that's going to help you remove that one. The more you practice that new concept, the more you're going to remove these false beliefs. What happens then is that this concept is turned into truth, and that's where it's becoming restrictive. So you have to look at the concept that have become identity or truth in your experience. And once you see that, then maybe they will be replaced for another concept. You remove by another concept, and then make sure you throw both away. So that's really what this process is about, is really seeing that. So maybe that this new concept which could be more direct for you, is coming to see over and over again, I'm not the doer of anything. And to see that anytime there is a sense of doership, there will be suffering. It's inevitable. And that life will show you wherever there is still a doership energy that's, ingrained somewhere in the body, and so that it can be released. So I feel like that's really what it is. It's like, I don't know exactly how you relate to this concept of miracle worker or what it means for you, but more and more you can just really explore your direct experience, because this is how it's going to fall away. When this concept comes, to start to look at, well, am I really the one doing something? and start to maybe take more and more of these experiences that are related to this concept and exploring them. Was I the one doing anything? Really exploring? Because as long as you have this belief that you were the one doing, then it's going to seem to be true. So it's going to be difficult to let it go because it seems real. And this other concept that you're not the one doing, well, and that you are not the doer anyway, will fall away in actually the experience of realizing you're not the one doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And thank you for mentioning that it's not a judgment against concepts. Because there seems to be a brilliance to all of it. It just feels like an amazing brilliance of how it all works together. It just all seems to work together for, to use the Course, all things work for good. So it's like there's an appreciation for all of it. But there's also a lot of humor in it. I think it's actually quite funny how it all plays out and how it all works. It's like I think it's funny. I laugh at myself constantly.
Yeah. Well, I remember someone from the Course writing to me several weeks ago and saying, well, Armelle, I listened to one of your video and you say that we are this, and you say that for you the world is real and I don't understand. The Course is saying that the world is not real and that we're not the body, and what are you talking about? I was following you and I trusted what you were saying, but now you're saying that. What's going on? That's it. At some point, to me, you have to let go of concept to just come to what is my experience now, and you realize that your experience has gone beyond the concept, and therefore the concept is restrictive and it's not helpful, and you live your life as a human being here. I mean, this is the experience of life. You can't deny that. You can't deny that you have breakfast in the morning, or that you sleep at night. Most of the time, that's how it is. That you like to take a shower, maybe every day, maybe not. I mean, we have to realize that we have these lives, and we can't, at some point, deny that that's what's happening, and keeping practicing something to keep us in a certain kind of experience or a certain state of mind, because there is a piece that is there constantly, that doesn't need any maintaining at all, that doesn't need any practice at all, and from which suffering can stop arising by this recognition that there is absolutely no one doing, and the integration of that in every area of our life. So I think that this is really worth, take a look at these beliefs that are still there. And most of the time, these are really spiritual beliefs that have pushed away something from our awareness that was very helpful. But now these things are back again to be felt and to be released, to be felt fully. To me, that's really the experience.
Yeah, I mean, as you were sharing, I had in my mind, like, if I think about my experience, much of the attraction to spirituality, in whatever form that it showed up in, was to really deny experience, to really, hear the concepts of, oh, the world's illusion. Oh, I can like that one. No wonder I'm having this horrible experience in life, because it's all an illusion. So let me keep going. And it's like, now you tell me that, wait, that this is it? This is what I've just spent my whole entire life trying to run away from, trying to get something different, and you're telling me I gotta go back. And it's like, wait, I remember reading a book a long time ago, and the title of the book was This Is It. And I read it, and I was so disappointed. So disappointed. I could not accept that this is it. No, and I put it down, and I'm like, someone's got it wrong, because certainly what spirituality has to offer me is something so much greater than what it is that I have. And it's like, now I'm hearing, and what's coming back is actually, no. It's like, what I have is everything that's ever been wanted.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. It's like, you know, it's like you can't imagine that you will have to come back and face your life again. It's like no way. And so that's why we try to maintain a state of mind. That's why we try to stay as the witness of everything, constantly staying there, detached from everything. But to me, it's full involvement in everything, but without anything ever sticking, but without any practice also. So I feel like that's really the full experience of it. That's really what we want. We just don't want, you know, even if we are 97 or 98% of the time at peace, well, there is 2% left. And at some point, life will come back and say, well, ding dong, well, there's 2% left here. Do we take a look at it or not? What do you want? and I think that, you know, when you come there, it's like, well, yeah, sure, I want the 100%. I want the full experience of it. I don't want, you know, the 98%. No way. And so that's really what it is. But sure, it's like you will have to face the suffering that you run away from at some point to bring about the experience of awakening. Yes, definitely. That's gonna happen. That's gonna come back. And that's the fear, is that what you say, well, you mean that I have to go back there? Well, there is no going back. That's for sure. But just an opening in the moment to feel whatever is there. And that opening to that feeling is actually, to me, always the doorway to what we are now, what we've always been, and the recognition that even suffering arising is not me doing it. I've never been the one doing the suffering. I've never been the one choosing the suffering. Like the Course is also talking about that, you know, concept of choose again. Well, even choose again at some point has to fall away because you think you're still the chooser. And it's like, well, and what if when that arises, there is no one making it arise? And maybe I'll go with it. Maybe it'll just go away in the moment. I don't really know what's going to happen. But seeing that in the understanding that I am not the one doing, there is a deepening that happens. And so less and less there is involvement in these things. And so less and less there is actually belief in whatever is still there and still arises, and then it falls away, because it's only in seeing things that they fall away. It's only in becoming aware of things that it falls away. And you're not the one doing that either. Awareness is the one doing. Awareness is bringing about your question today. Awareness is bringing about your wondering, well, is the Course still helpful to me today? So awareness has landed there, and is now bringing about the change by you asking the question, by our discussion, and it's reconditioning you in this way by all these questions that you keep asking yourself or asking to others sometimes when you get a chance to, and exploring your experience, starting to see everything that you see. You can see that, are you the one doing that? Right. So the next part is the same thing. You're just going to keep seeing what you are to see. Life is bringing that about anyway. And so you're going to see that, again, you're not the one doing. And in that seeing, you're going to keep deepening into, there is no one living life. There is only life happening every moment. And that's going to become, you know, just really the full experience of that, of being lived. And there, suffering doesn't arise.
Yeah, as soon as you landed right now, as there's a sense of freedom that comes about. It's like there's the sense of personal responsibility is let go.
Yeah. Someone was writing to me earlier today, actually, yeah. So the only responsibility we have is... I don't remember what she said, but I was like, no, we don't even have this one anymore. Yeah. We don't. There is just being. There isn't even a responsibility to choose the atonement. There isn't even that responsibility.
That's one I use a lot. That's one that has always come to mind, and I can feel like in recent days that it just, something's not lined up. It's like when I say, oh, you know, your only responsibility is to accept the atonement for yourself, is to, you know, it's like the words come out of my mouth, but there's just something in there that just kind of feels into what's being expressed right now.
Mm. Yeah, because it's much more simple than that. It is seeing that Craig is living this life, although life is living Craig. But the only perspective Craig has on life is Craig's perspective. And the perspective of Craig is consciousness, life living Craig, seeing through Craig's perspective. And Craig cannot know, I speak French and English at the same time, cannot know Armelle's perspective, as Armelle cannot know Craig's perspective. It's just not possible. So we know the underground is completely non-dual, but we have to see at some point that non-dual experience, that non-dual that we are, the one that we are, can only be lived in duality. And at some point we are invited by life to come back as a human being living life in duality, and to see that duality is opposites, and living that from that perspective, from that understanding. And that's what is invited.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what was coming to mind as we were just sharing about responsibility is, as long as there's a sense of any responsibility, there's also the possibility for guilt. Because if I believe that I am responsible, then I have to also, with that comes the possibility that I'm guilty for not living up to my responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as long as there is blame, guilt, pride, or attachment to outcome, there is suffering. As long as that still arises, that means that suffering still arises. And it's not neither good nor bad, it's just how it is. And at some point in this process, we have to land there and to see, okay, where I'm at. Okay, here. And when I realize where I'm at, I'm actually already opening up to a deepening. So it's important to see that, so that the deepening can keep going. Because trying to stay where we are by making us believe we are further is actually really not helpful. But also, if that happens, it's still also life doing that. It's still not us doing it. We don't have a choice but feeling like that. We don't have a choice but living it like that. And it's very important, because I feel for me that really seeing that every moment it's always life doing it. Whatever is happening is never your fault. It's never you not doing something enough. It's always life bringing that about. And if the awareness lands there, well, it's also life bringing that about, bringing about the awareness landing there, bringing about the questioning of that, bringing about the letting go of the concept, bringing about the change. And how does awareness bring about the change? By reconditioning. So all these talks are reconditioning. All the books you might read, or the quotes you might read, or Facebook or whatever, reconditioning. Your experience of contrast, where there might still be, you know, reaction or blame or guilt or whatever rising, reconditioning. Because as long as this still happens, it's helping you to actually come in touch with a deeper things that is there, that you realize that, well, but even all that, I'm not the one doing.
And there's not even the
and
one,
just starting.
There's not even the one even understanding any of that. Like even for me, even as I'm saying, you know, these are the things that I notice. It's not even me the one noticing it. This is where
it's a word. Yeah,
it's such a paradox.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's quite amazing actually to start to see how much that everything is really just life doing, and how life bring about the change. I'm just so, yeah, I just keep being amazed by that. You know, you're aware of the orchestration of life, how life can bring about, you know, one person, one situation, blah blah blah, and so you live it already. The awareness has just not landed on everything, so that it's seen that you're not the one doing any of it. But I'm sure you already live this amazement in plenty of ways. seeing that, well, how you would say it is everything works together for good, how life bring the situation so that you will see whatever is still in the way, whatever's left or something. You're certainly aware of that, but the awareness has not landed on the fact that it's not you doing it, maybe. And so the more and more you see it, the more and more you're free. Yeah. And then you realize that, you know, you can just live your life any way you want, any way your heart is, you know, anything. And there isn't a certain way of living life. There is just whatever's calling you every moment.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I think that is another concept I know for me that I seem to have had at some point, was the idea of what this needs to look like. So everything that we just talked about, or that you shared, I thought that it had to look like it. And so the mind was focused on, oh, that's it. You know, whether it be that person's it, or, you know, that this is what's allowed in that experience and not allowed in that experience. So the fact that you just shared a very simple teaching, or a simple fact, that we are to be free and do whatever it is that we're inspired to do, is like, well, wait, but I want to be this or something else. It's like,
right. Let's even stop there, because I know that I am inspired by, I know this term, I've used it so much for many years. Let's even go there, because otherwise you're always going to look for inspiration as a big thing, as a new project, as everything. But what if it was just about living life every moment, doing only just what you feel like doing every moment? Just what you feel like doing. You don't even have to be inspired. You know, because inspiration might seem bigger than just living life every moment as you feel it. Yeah. It might seem that behind inspiration there is some kind of mission, there is some kind of spiritual miracle worker that you have to do.
It's funny because even as you say it
wasn't just about vague.
Yeah, even as you say it, inspiration, oh wow, yeah, I can see that. I can see how that's been turned into something pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, even that.
Mm. Yeah, then it's only about, you know, really being Craig. Knowing that Craig is consciousness living through this instrument, wonderful instrument that is the body. But this body has conditioning that this body doesn't have. It's not the same conditioning. So we are different in that. We're the same in source, but we are different in that, and we cannot deny that. And however this body is going to act is not necessarily going to be the same way. So I always say to people, like, don't compare your experience to what someone has shared, because you will never live the same experience anyway. And it's really beautiful, actually, traveling and talking and everything with Roger, because we've really seen how, well, he has a completely different way of being than me. Like, he's very much, it's just peace. Like, it's very much peace. And I am more into joy and love. But that's my expression. But the ground is the same, but the expression is completely different. And so if we think that I have to be in joy all the time, well, that's another idea that we can let go of. Like, joy is just a flavor of the peace that we are. And many different persons will have many different flavor. And we just have to allow whatever flavor is there, knowing that the flavor is still not who we are. The flavor is still coming from a deeper place within ourselves, like just that, you know, just what's left when there isn't even joy. And I really looked at that quite a lot, actually, because I had so much joy in this experience these last years. It was so much there that I could see at some point that me sharing that joy, people were making it into what they need to reach.
Well, and that's what exactly what I meant when I said that. When I looked, there was a time when I looked at different people, and it's like, oh, that's it, and so that I have to match that.
Yeah. No, you don't. You have to just be you, however it looks like, however it feels like. It's just completely enough to just be you. It doesn't have to look like any specific way at all. Because, you know, I had a 3-week retreat, and during that retreat, I saw the first weeks, that was amazing. The first week, most of people, they were trying to be in joy. And I was like, what are you guys doing? I did not understand what was going on. Like, you know, they were like pushing the laughter and like trying to be in joy. And I was like, I don't get it. What's happening here? And I was looking at that. And at some point I realized, oh, this is it. They saw all my videos. Some of them like went to see me, and actually in that phase I was not at all in that. I was very much in silence. It was right after my trip in Brazil in March, and I was living such a deep experience. I had a profound experience that happened there, and I was so much in silence, and it felt so empty inside that I felt always drawn back to that. So there was very little laughter, and there was very little joy. There was just mostly a deep peace and silence. And so I was showing them a completely different person than the one they thought they would meet. And that's all I could talk about. It was like constantly bringing everyone back to that silence. So the joy made no sense anymore. And so they were like shocked actually, because they thought it was it. And I was like, no. And then it was about hugging, and then it was about love. And I was like, no, this is not it either. This is not it either. It's like, just go deeper. And when they touched deeper, there was like, there they could rest. Then rest happened. Because there was about no form at all. And then whatever form comes, then that's what it is in the moment.
I love that you just touched on the hugging and stuff like that, because it's another idea of what it needs to be. And even, I mean, I've had even in my mind, I'm like, you know, why aren't we hugging as much? Or why isn't it looking the way that, you know, it should be looking more, it's not as spiritual as it needs to be, because there isn't enough hugging. And not that, again, not that there's anything wrong with hugging. Certainly I love to hug and all that fun stuff, but it's just to say that the mind does buy into the hugging as truth, and that isn't it either.
No. During that retreat specifically, to me, there was, I just couldn't. It's like whatever experience I was living then just was withdrawing me from all these things very strongly, very deeply actually. And I couldn't engage in these things. So people were quite, surprised, because they had an expectation of who they would meet. And that wasn't what was there. There was just this call to, you know, the depth of who we truly are. And yeah.
Well, our time is now up. We've chatted for quite a bit, an hour here, and I adore you and I love you so freaking much. It's too funny, and I just love the fact that you know, time can seemingly pass by, and we can just kind of come back and pick up where we left off, and there's just so much freedom in that. And I know that we played a little bit of a dance trying to get here, and even that was quite beautiful, and I laughed at it many times. So I just welcome it all, and I love you and I adore you, and I can't wait to see you, and I appreciate you joining me for this chat and sharing for me and everybody else who will listen to this. Thank you for being with me.
Oh yeah, Oh, thank you too, Craig. That was so beautiful. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much for even your invitation.
Love you.
Yeah. Love you too.